weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 195, brought to you by two-time Group 1 winning trainer Chad Summers. Mr. Samich, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I would love to know if you put in a phone call to your buddy Chad Summers after he led you down such a great path for that tip in the last there at Saratoga.
Didn't call him. Sent him a few texts.
Yeah. How did he get back to you on that, or was he busy celebrating the big win when he had 50 to win on that puppy?
I know. He got back to me, but he kept up the facade of being shocked. I legitimately think he was shocked that happened. He's told me before when he's loved horses and hated horses, and this was one of the first times he's ever been wrong. So you know what? It's fine. Listen, this is called the What We Learned Magic Bashing Edition for a reason. Everybody, go ahead and if you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, thanks so much for joining us. Please feel free to leave the comments here. I deserve every bit of vitriol that I'm going to get. If you watched our live show on Saturday when we did it with the whole Racing Dudes team, got my fair share of that more than once because Jared came in at the very end of the show and it just started all over again. So that was just wonderful. But hey, you know what? We take it in stride. It's all in fun. I'm a good sport. I can handle it. What's going on with your neck of the woods today?
Not too much, man. Yeah, that was a rough 2 hours for you there with the way that played out in that late pick four. I mean, we're obviously going to go over it, but yeah, it was a rough 2 hours there. Aaron gave you some crap on that show. It's been good, man. It's been good. It's obviously a good weekend. Absolutely enjoyed the tournament that I played in for 2 days. That was an absolute blast. Shout out to Horse Tourneys for putting that thing on and doing such a good job. It definitely was more stressful than I expected, but it was nice to have an entry, one of my two entries, to be competitive the whole weekend and to go and have a shot at $250K going into the last 5 races at Del Mar is something that you don't get every Sunday. So that was definitely a blast, and I appreciate Horse Tourneys putting that thing on.
Yeah, congratulations. You didn't win, but you ended up with a nice pocket of change and overall a good weekend. It sounded like our boy Ruben Fuentes hasn't gotten a whole lot of mounts at Del Mar, but he definitely got a winner home with Luis Mendez for you.
Yeah, it's one of those angles that we talked about. I mean, with Ruben being suspended for a couple of days, you weren't seeing him on some of the Mendez horses, and then he gets back on a 2-year-old that struggled first time out with Agapito Delgadito. That's a tough one. I don't think I got it right either. Anyway, the horse didn't get bet at all. It was an 8-1 morning line, floated all the way up to 30-1 in debut, facing a $1 million Callahan horse and a nice Baffert. I think it was actually 2 nice Bafferts in the race. The Mendez horse with Ruben up gets bet down from 10-1 to 6-1, and that told me everything I needed to know about whether or not that horse is going to have a shot at running. And he broke clean, sat right around the outside, and Ruben just puts those horses in such good spots. And that's really what happened there. I mean, he put him in a great spot. He was able to pounce around the turn, and Ruben's a strong rider, so he's good for these 2-year-olds, and he got the job done. So yeah, Ruben Fuentes, and again, when you see Mendez training and Fuentes up, that's a combination that I like to lean on, and it paid off. It was nice to get that 6-1 winner home at the end of a tournament and give me a shot. And I took my swing in the second to last, and heavily whiffed on a 25-1 shot, but still all in all a good time. Made about $4,300 in the tournament and cashed a nice pick 5 too. So yeah, good weekend.
Yeah, listen, if anybody followed along when you were at NHC, you quickly find out you're not there to try and you're not okay with just going, you know what, I'll just take, $3,000 and call it good. I mean, you're there to win, and that is your nature as a human being. You're very competitive. So yeah, take a shot at 25-1 because you're already up. You're going to leave with plus money probably no matter where you finish by that point. 25-1 is going to cap you out, and you're probably going to get a hell of a lot closer to winning, if not winning outright, depending on how all the chips fall. So I thought it was a great weekend for you. Plus, like you mentioned, the Samo bombs, a long time coming. You finally got all the photos and the nods to go your way and got.
Oh man, we lost Magic again. Right when he was going to go into it. Yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. We've had quite a few photos and bobs and re-rallies go against us in the last couple of weeks. But man, it was nice to get a monster home here. We'll see when he's able to rejoin the show. But it was it was good. It was Sunday morning, early pick 5 that we were able to just get a big one home. It was $7,800 for a $120 ticket. So that's why we got the shirt on here representing. Get those on Old Smoke. But yeah, it was pretty exciting to be able to get that home on Sunday, and it was fun, man. I hope that everyone listening was able to watch that live stream on Saturday as well, because that was an absolute blast. We had a really good time doing the live stream there. I'm not sure if it's me here. Is it me?
Hey,
What's up, buddy?
no, I have no idea what just happened there.
You paused, and then I paused, and then I got booted out, so I tried to jump back in, and here we are. The magic's
We're
my
back
show,
on it.
folks.
It's still
Yeah.
going live. The counter hasn't stopped. I don't know what happened there. I tried pulling up the screen sharing the bomb ticket that you had, and it literally blew up the feed. That's how big of a ticket it was for you.
What can I say? Yeah, no, I was. I think the ticket you're trying to pull up is CK's, who's been a subscriber for a long time, been an awesome supporter of the Samba Bombs, and he decided that yesterday was the day and popped it for $1. So he played a $120 ticket that I gave out for $240 and made $16,000 on Sunday. The first 5 races at Saratoga, pretty incredible, man. It was nice to see a lot of the veterans have it, the people that have been supporting the Samba Bombs since the beginning. And it also is fun because I had a lot of people telling me, "Oh, you can't hit big tickets now. The Samba Bombs are too big. There's too many people playing them." Boom, $8,000. We can still do it. We can find ways to make it happen. So it was a fun Sunday, man. Pulling in 12K and then also having everybody hit with me. It's absolute blast, and it was coming. You could kind of feel it too. I mean, Friday we had a back-to-back $30 winners, and we were rolling in a big ticket there. Luckily, the rolling pick 3s paid over $2,000 for those 2 races, so that was nice. And Saturday, we felt like we were on top of it, had quite a few winners in the tournament, and finally it came home on Sunday, which is nice. You know what the key was to that pick 5 on Sunday?
What's that?
Singling Steve Asmussen. Singled a 3-2 Asmussen in leg 1, but again, know what people are good at. Steve Asmussen, first-time starter, 2-year-old, $950,000 Stone Street horse. Don't waste bullets in that spot. Spread everywhere else. So that's what we did. We singled that 3-2 Asmussen in the first leg, and I think that was actually a separator in a way because there was a Brown in there and a Pletcher in there that both took a ton of money, or 2 Browns in there that both took a ton of money, and that allowed us to go deep. It was 4 by 5 by 3 by 3, I think, for the rest of the way. So allowed us to really spread out and get some prices home. Got a nice 17-1 shot home, a nice 8-1 shot home, and close it out with a 5-1 winner. So it was a nice little sequence, and happy to get one home.
Yeah, congrats again. That was great. And congrats to everybody who stayed with him. And we knew it was going to happen. This is what happens all the time is Mike gets a little bit of a cold streak, which is natural with his volatile style. But when it hits, man, it hits hard. So real happy for you. Really happy to see that Samba Bomb squad got to cash in as well. And also, speaking of Steve Asmussen, I don't know if you saw it. Obviously, you did. But if you're watching this, if you saw, he had a 2-year-old named Calibrate on Saturday at Saratoga, and kind of had gotten word that this horse might be pretty good. Got a tip from someone who follows saying that this horse worked heads up with Thoughtfully right before she won the Adirondack. And I mean, literally worked heads up. They were right there together. And he came out and won his debut. And we didn't get the price. I think it was 5-1 on the morning line. It wasn't anywhere close to that.
I think about 9-5 or 8-5.
Yeah, you can blame who was it? Maggie Wolfendale was talking him up pretty good. But hey, listen, the word was out. But the horse is pretty good. So good, in fact, that Steve Asmussen is going to send him to the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, which is going to be a 2-turn test. He's going straight from his debut into a 2-turn test, and he's going to be at Keeneland, and that's key because that's where the Breeders' Cup is being held. So he's going to send him to Keeneland, get him ready for the Breeders' Cup. So watch out for Calibrate. Before we get into it, Mike, what's the best thing other than your bomb tickets that you saw this weekend?
I got to say, and this is kind of strange. We were talking about on the text thread just a minute ago. Man, that Denver-Utah game that just ended, was exceptional. I cannot tell you how much I am enjoying having sports at like 1:30 in the afternoon that matter. Like having the NHL playoffs going during the day, having the NBA going during the day. It is a great way to help you through the workday. And I mean, Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray just put on a show going back and forth in that fourth quarter, fighting one another, just three after three, impossible shot after impossible shot. Then you have the two centers going at it. I love sports. To be able to have that level of competition and that going on during the day, it's absolutely incredible. So the best thing I saw is that basketball game, man. It was a shame that it got blown out in OT, but Denver probably should have won in that last play anyway. Jokic probably should have made the layup. But, man, it was a lot of fun to spend a couple hours kind of having that in the background, being able to turn my head and watch that as I worked all day today. So I'm going to give a nod to the NBA, man. They have crushed this bubble thing. They've absolutely crushed it. Everything they've done has been super successful. Now I hear they're trying to speed up the playoffs a little bit. Bill Simmons was talking about this on his pod, where they're going to try and play the rounds as soon as both teams are done. They're going to play the next round to try and accelerate it, which means we're not going to have these big gaps where we're waiting for one. Like, it's a huge issue with it before, so I'm really happy they're saying they're doing it. Apparently it's because the players are getting bored in their hotel rooms, which I actually also don't blame them. As someone who travels for work, going back to the same hotel room after like 3 days gets really old really fast. So I'm glad that they're accelerating it. I love having afternoon sports. I just absolutely love it. It also means I don't waste money on tracks on Monday, Tuesday that I shouldn't be betting anyway. So it's a win-win situation.
No, instead you were betting the Denver team total overs on to win the first half in the first quarter today, which worked, by the way.
2-0 my Twitter sports picks. I did have a complete disclaimer that I don't know what I'm doing, but it worked out well.
That was a fantastic game. I actually worked in the living room behind the double doors there, if you're watching, and just sat there. These headphones actually plug into our amplifier. It's that kind of that fatter jack. And just I plugged in and was listening while I was doing the Breeders' Cup previews, because thank God, this is almost going to be the best thing I saw this weekend, is Del Mar continues to release their cards almost a week in advance. Sunday they come out. We've got Friday, we got Saturday here for you. And I'm like, okay, now we've got a major track doing this. Why the ever-loving God are we not doing this at other tracks? Why do we have to wait till Wednesday? What is with that stupid effed up system? Ugh, I hate it. Anyways, thank you, Del Mar. Because I got those two done and sent off already. Aaron's already, working hard because we got the Inside Track to the Pacific Classic wagering guide coming out this weekend. So he's going to have that to me. It also means that he and I have, it's less stressful, less time pressure for us to work through that and make it as good as we can for you guys. So that was almost going to be the best thing I saw. But the best thing I saw, it wasn't going to top this Saturday at Woodbine. Pink Lloyd, 25 career victories. Now this is an 8-year-old gelding who's never left Woodbine. And he literally, into Saturday, there was one race left that he could even try to qualify for that he hadn't won, that was sprinting on synthetic. It was the Bold Venture. He was 5th 2 years ago. He was 4th last year. They declared him non-starter because I held up at the starting gate. Seemed like he was never going to get it. And this is a graded stakes, so he was facing open competition. Nope. The old guy got it done. He's literally won every possible race that he could at Woodbine. This guy just keeps he's just so much fun. And every time he runs, Aaron and I will just be sitting there texting each other like, oh my God, did you see this? And then you guys got to deal with it on our main text chain because we lost it. It was so cool how he did it, because I'll hand it to Patrick Husbands. We're going to talk about it multiple times on this show. Husbands, there was a little bit of a hole between the two pace setters at the top of the stretch. Husbands was on the outside and he looked and he saw Pink Lloyd and he's steering his horse over. He's trying to shut off the hole.
Close it up.
And Pink Lloyd just literally said, F you, and went between the two of them. And then he got bored and he almost got caught because there was a horse that came flying light. And he was just like, all right, I won, right? Because he used to going 6 furlongs. This was 6.5. Anyways, Pink Lloyd winning, getting 25 wins, 22 at the stakes level. That you can't call him anything but a legend at this point. I love Pink Lloyd.
It's fun to have these type of horses, man. I mean, you got Mr. Jägermeister running up at Canterbury. You got Welder down in the Oklahoma, Texas circuit. I mean, it's fun to have these local superstar horses, and when they actually come through on a big stage like this, it's even better. But yeah, I mean, you and Aaron in this horse, it's a gush fest, man. Yep. I don't know what would happen if you guys actually got to go up to Woodbine and see him. I don't know if the horse would be safe. It would be a problem. But it was supposed to happen
this year. We planned on going to. We planned for over 2 years a Woodbine trip. It was going to happen this year, and then COVID happened. So this horse needs to come back for a 9-year-old season.
Just bring him back. Just keep running him back.
Why not?
He was the move. Like what Magic is, it's like almost understating the incredible move that he made here to just split horses and blow through this field, which wasn't totally loaded, but it was still a quality field, and like you said, a graded stakes and open company. So good on you. I'm glad he was able to get the job done. And hey, maybe send him down to Keeneland. Just give him one shot at Keeneland. Let's see what happens this year. Come on.
We used to say that. We used to be like, it's the end of the year. Woodbine's done. There's no stakes races left. Go here, go there. Just do that.
Take a
Come
swing.
on, just do it.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's kind of fun. It's just like he never leaves Woodbine. He's just he is the king. He is the true king of Woodbine, the king of the North. So
the king of the bridge jumpers.
They haven't had show betting on him in a race that he's been in over a year, I want to say, at this point. Camera's freaking out again.
They learn quickly, man. He's too consistent. They just keep losing money every time he runs in races.
Yeah. Am I still here? Did my camera go? I'm paused again. God
yeah.
Damn camera. Sorry. This is not supposed to be happening. It's like my computer hates StreamYard all of a sudden. I can't figure out what's going on with that. So let me see if we can get it booted back up here.
The beauty.
There we go.
Yeah, you're still frozen. Oh, he's back. All right, he's moving again. That's a great sign.
Well, real quick before I wanted to freeze on a good thing this time. Somebody was asking what jersey I'm wearing.
I knew it was Clips.
And the shorts, baby.
Oh,
it's game day. It's game day. Playoffs start tonight, man.
Unbelievable. Your wife is at work. Your wife's not home, right? Is that what's happening?
She doesn't know. She's on the other side of those doors over there.
There we go. So you changed before going on the podcast to put the full jersey on. Is that?
Well, yeah. If you remember our poker games, every time we'd have like a 5-minute break, I'd go and change it into a sports jersey. So yeah. But the Clip Show. We're starting the title run right now. So it's starting at 6. It's starting in 3 hours and 15 minutes. So plenty of time to get into this show. Mike and I are going to be looking at the Saratoga Late Pick 4 tickets that we gave out for this past Saturday. And then we're also going to look at Woodbine, and Mike's got a thing to talk about with Will Pay handicapping. So stay tuned for that. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, kicking things off, Mike, we're going to look at the Saratoga Late Pick 4 sequence from this past Saturday, August 15th, starting with race 8, the Saratoga Derby's $500,000 purse. Big favoritism on Decorated Invader. You and I both said that on paper that you definitely had to use him. Whether or not he was your top pick or not, he needed to be on your tickets. Turns out this guy didn't even hit the board. He finishes 5th. And hats off to you, because you had domestic spending, which was you went with an interesting angle. Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz Jr., Clairvich Stables owns the horse, and it's a turf stakes in New York. I didn't use, because I don't really know anything about those connections, apparently. But you did. You got it right. Great effort from domestic spending. I will say that the 5 Gufo, he just needed a little bit more stretch run there. He maybe if he was on the outer turf course, he could have, or on a different turf course, he could have gotten it done. Didn't get it there. Talk about domestic spending here.
Yeah, I mean, this was the effort we were expecting from domestic spending. Last race in the Hall of Fame. Well, I don't know.
That's
maybe
true.
Not you. I mean, I picked him on top in the Hall of Fame too when he was facing Decorated Invader, and a little disappointed in that effort. He improved that day, but didn't really come with what I fully expected from him. There's also a son of Kingsman, who is a sire that's not that well known in the U.S., but is a very good sire overseas, and one that I looked for. Yeah, Kingsman had another winner. It's a 2-year-old debut winner on that same card for Chad Brown, Clairvich Stables, and Ortiz. Those connections again, no one's ever heard of. Like, if only they won a training title meet or a jockey title meet or an owner title meet in the last, I don't know,
year at Saratoga,
then maybe people would play him. No, but like, in all seriousness, I get why this horse gets left off if you're going short, but going deep, right, I think it's one of those that have to be used. I ended up using this horse on top simply because I like the fact that this horse took money last time, and I thought the price was going to be right, and that really was the difference for me. It's that these races, these longer turf races, are wide open. I don't think that you should have these short price favorites unless you have horses like Sister Charlie, things like that. So I'm going to be almost always looking to fade favorites and use them, either chuck them completely or use them defensively. And I felt like Decorated Invader was one of those use defensively type horses. It just didn't have run today. I mean, that's the honest answer too. If you're going into this race, I mean, I would have told you that I thought domestic spending would have hit the board at least, or Decorated Invader would have hit the board at least. But for him to finish 5th was very surprising, and it really. I mean, I think one of the stories out of Saratoga is the rough weekend Rosario had. He couldn't do anything right. It seemed like Friday, Saturday, or Sunday over at Saratoga, and this was another example of where, when he wanted to be on the lead, he kind of fell back. When he wanted to be back, he should have been on the lead, and just kind of everything was backward for him. And he'll shake out of it. He's a great jockey, but we all have those days. But this was one of those where you've had a lot of really good turf horses here. And this whole field, I mean, we often talk about who do you want out of a race? I kind of want all of them. Like, domestic spending, pretty good. Gufo, pretty good. No Word ran exactly like we talked about on the live show. That horse was a must-use underneath at the price. It's one I included in my pick 4 ticket. Colonel Liam ran really well. Decorated Invader ran really well. Bama Breeze, Field Pass Gets Smoking. We had him chucked anyway. I mean, those top 5 are all good horses and will be heard from moving forward.
Yeah, domestic spending. It's like if you look at domestic spending and his connections and Decorated Invader his connections, they were like this, where you had Clement Rosario killing it at the top of the meet, and then Chad was doing terribly, and then I'm a stats guy, so I'm kicking myself so many times for not having this horse. The regression to the mean for both of them was doing this, and we were seeing that in the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet the horse doing this instead of the horse doing this, which would have been the smart thing to do, forget the connection. So I think you brought up a great point that you want to take so many horses out of here. One key to domestic spending winning afterwards, Chad Brown and Irad both said that they talked in the paddock. They wanted him to be more forwardly placed, which is not where you usually see those silks in a Chad Brown horse. You usually see a Clairvich Stables horse coming from well off the pace, like bricks and mortar. For him to sit there pretty close, I thought, well, this is an interesting tactic during the race. And then I think that was the difference maker. I think because he got first jump on everybody, including Gufo. I think that's the biggest reason that you saw him up front when it mattered and just continuing to grind away in the stretch.
Yeah, a common theme in these races is that you see these dawdling paces up front, and that necessarily wasn't the case in this race, but it does show why you kind of want to be up closer a little bit. I mean, they went out 23:47. Those are pretty good fractions for this distance at this level. So you didn't have that in this case, but a lot of times when you're talking about where you want to be in these races, it is closer to the front. I mean, you want to be able to try and make your own trip, be able to make first run, like you said, essentially sit inside both turns and then tilt out into the stretch in that 2 or 3 path and be able to just storm home first and say, come and get me, and hope the horse has heart and is able to hold off someone like Gufo coming, who's a very good horse that was running right at him. But I do think the change in tactics made a big difference. I don't think they wanted to be too far behind Decorated Invader either. I think if I'm Chad and Irad, I'm pretty surprised how Decorated Invader ran in here. I think in a lot of ways, they thought that this was kind of a match race in that sense. And so they wanted to make sure that they were close to Decorated Invader, and that really where he was sitting off his flank through the mass majority of this race until he ran right on by him, and then Gufo came charging late with no word in Colonel Liam. And I think the other one that's interesting to talk about here is Colonel Liam. We both mentioned him in the live show. I felt like he got the worst trip of the bunch. Mm-hmm. He didn't seem to break as sharp as expected. He was in a different spot than I thought he would be in the race, and had to come charging late and tried to make a run. So I liked seeing him actually show some heart there. I think Colonel Liam is kind of the one, if you can get back at a price, is the one I want next time. And I don't know. This goes to the handicapping side of betting, or the betting side of handicapping. We often talk about you have to be a good bettor and a good handicapper. Domestic spending is going to get overbet in the next race. Gufo will probably be overbet. You're not getting 15-1 or 18-1 on no word next time. Colonel Liam will float up from that 4-1 number if he faces this field again. And if you're sitting and seeing him at 8-1, 9-1, he becomes a must use in those pick 4s and pick 5s.
My concern with Colonel Liam, this is 2 races now on turf, and his turf debut was fantastic. It was the reason we both had him on our tickets. He's got a bit of maximum security, and what I mean by that is you really got to dog this horse to get going. Both times going into the far turn, he's being ridden. And Castellano, I think they were halfway down the backstretch, and Castellano was starting to put him under a drive. And as a jockey, you really – I mean, it's something that it's like Joel Rosario's wet dream, right? You just need me to just be, vigorous with the horse starting in the backstretch. Sure, yeah, we'll do this. But any other jockey is going to go, man, this is hard, especially when you're going this far with a horse. You want me to ride him for half the race and then 9.5 for a long. All right, we'll see how. I don't know if Blinkers fixes that, but there's something here twice now where he's just been really dogged, and you got to get after him. And once he gets going, it's fine. But then in this case, he just got going too late, and you wonder, how can you fix that?
Yeah, I mean, the jockey might be an important piece of that. I don't know if Castellano is the best fit for that type of horse. You mentioned, obviously, Rosario is a good fit for it. Saez would be a good fit for it. I think that you really have to be careful about what jockeys you put on a horse that I would call a little lazier down the backstretch, and you kind of really need to motivate to get going. So I think the key is really what jockey is going to be riding the horse, not necessarily if you can fix it with blinkers or something like that. Because the horse seems focused. It seems like it wants to run at its own pace, and sometimes you need to be a little bit closer.
Got a question from Darren Stipes about Decorated Invader, and then we'll move on. Does he go to the 8 furlong American Turf on Derby weekend? It's a race that Chad Brown likes to win a lot, so he's going to be sending somebody good there. But I think maybe the question here is because Decorated Invader, if you look at what he's done at a mile, he lost the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf, but he was closing very strongly there. He wins the summer at a mile. He wins the Cutler Bay at a mile. He wins the Pennine Ridge at a mile. So maybe a mile might be this best shot. I mean, as opposed to going longer, I think that's a pretty good spot because they've got the turf triple, basically like the Triple Crown turf schedule, supposed to still happen at Belmont somehow. So I don't know. I think that's a good point. Would you cut him back to a mile?
I don't know. Probably not because of the money. I think you might want to try and do the triple over at Belmont and keep him in state and play for the big bucks. I mean, the thing is, you just wanted a mile and an eighth. So the distance to up to a mile and eighth isn't really much of a concern. And I don't know if the distance was the issue here or as much as it was being up close to the pace at the distance here. I think he wanted to go a little bit slower. And like I said, the fractions early were pretty quick in here, 23-2, 47-3, 112 flat for 6 furlongs. And when you compare that to the 48-4 and 113-2, they ran going a mile and an eighth, where he was sitting over a second off that pace. It was just a much easier race for him from a pace perspective. I think he was probably too close to the front today to be himself in the lane based on the fractions that they went early in the last 2 races.
All right, so you nailed the first leg. I'm already out. We'll move on into the second leg. And boy, in hindsight, Mike, this could have been probably the easiest leg of the whole bunch. The Grade 1 $500,000 Alabama Stakes. This was a Kentucky Oaks prep and a Breeders' Cup win, and you're in for the distaff. And they're going a mile and a quarter on the Saratoga dirt. We both use Swiss Skydiver. We both love Spice is Nice. I don't know if I love Spice is Nice so much anymore, but that Swiss Skydiver, she might be okay, huh?
Yeah, she might not be a bad filly. Do you overthink it much? That's kind of what I thought coming out of this race.
We were trying to beat a very short price favorite. That's our defense.
Yes, that is the defense. And, it's a shame because I think if we both singled Swiss Skydiver, we hit this. Well, actually, yeah. I take that back because Chad Summers. But the only way to hit this for us would have been to single Swiss Skydiver, because then we could hit all in the last leg, which we kind of knew was a possible all leg there. But the thing is, the first leg was tough, and I wasn't on the winner in the third leg that you were on, who I would have probably had to go pretty deep to get to. So this was a tough sequence when you look at it in reverse, even with Swiss Skydiver winning, and it paid fittingly. I mean, this was a nice payout for this pick 4 sequence as well when we look back at it. But as far as Swiss Skydiver, man, she's good. She's very good. She blew them out of the water today. And what she did that I was really impressed with was the ability to change tactics. I mean, she didn't need the lead, which I thought she did, and she did not. She was able to rate right off the speed and be able to absolutely pounce on the outside, running a career best 102 buyer here and setting herself up for what I believe should be the Derby. I'm not sure if you're actually going to get to see her there, but the way that she was able to rate outside of Crystal Ball and then pounce is exactly what you want from a Derby horse. I mean, I mentioned this on the live show when Slim writes his pace thesis, which is going to be back this year. He's always looking for those early presser horses, the EP7, right? That is the one that can not have any traffic trouble, but doesn't have to be in front. And that's ironically what like 3 of the top contenders are this year, including our boy Tiz the Law. But man, she put herself right into that group today. And she can sit right behind the leaders and pounce like that and run big. She's dangerous at a mile and a quarter against the boys or the girls. So I would love to see her in the Derby. I'm not sure if we'll get that, but we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, we talked about in the live show. I don't think the dust had fully settled on the track, and Jared texted us that Kenny McPeak, her trainer, had already said, "Yep, we're going to the Oaks." And in his defense, he said, "I looked at what Tiz the Law did last week, same distance, same track, and I looked at what she did and thought, nah, not yet."
Yeah.
So listen, I understand. I wouldn't want to put anybody against Tiz the Law. Let's just give him the Kentucky Derby now. We'll move on to the Preakness. Speaking of which, I don't know. Assume Swiss Skydiver. Let's just say. No, I shouldn't assume, but let's just say she wins the Kentucky Oaks. Do you send her to the Preakness to face the boys, or do you save her because she's had a long, you've brought her along well, but the spaces in between her races? Do you then wait and send her to the Breeders' Cup in the distaff? I mean, do you wait and see what Midnight Beast is going to do? I mean, what do you do with Swiss Skydiver after, assuming she does well in the Oaks there?
Well, I mean, if she romps in the Oaks, why not send her to the Breeders' Cup Classic? I'm going to be that guy. I mean, if we think Tiz the Law is the best horse in America, which I currently do think Tiz the Law is the best horse in America, period, older or 3-year-old, and you're trying to beat him in the Preakness, why aren't you just taking him on in the race that's bigger purse?
Wow.
I'm just saying.
That's a statement.
I get it. Okay, let's send her to the Preakness. Let's try and win a Triple Crown race with her, and then send her to the Breeders' Cup distaff, and maybe you send her to the Preakness and then make a choice between the distaff and the Classic. I mean, Midnight Beast is going to have the same choice to make between the distaff and the Classic. Mm-hmm. This is not exactly a year where you have any world beaters that are sitting in that older male division. It's one of the reasons why I believe Tiz the Law is. I said this before the Travers is the best horse in America right now. So if that is how you feel and you think you can beat Tiz the Law in the Preakness, why are you not also taking him on in other spots too? I mean, to me, it's kind of silly. If you're going to dodge him in the Derby, why are you then going after him in other spots? to me, that doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, who knows? Maybe you think that he can be weakened in the Derby and then you get a shot at him in the next race, but you're going to run a race the day before that's probably going to be just as contested. She's not even going to be the favorite in the Oaks. Let's be honest. It's going to be Gamine. So, I mean, to me, there's a bunch of logical issues that I have with that statement. The guy just doesn't, as someone who's like, okay, find the biggest purses, run for those purses where you think you can either win or come in second. Though, like the race sequence in there, it just makes no sense to me.
I gotta tell you, my favorite thing about Swiss Skydiver, she got 9 races. She got 5 wins. 8 of those 9 races have come at different tracks.
Yeah.
The only time she's doubled up, her first 2 career races were at Churchill Downs. She's had 5 different riders get her into the winner. So, I mean, that's just ridiculous to think that she could just go no matter what country, no matter who's riding. I mean, Mike Smith, Paco Lopez, Tyler Gaffalione all have very different riding styles. And they all could get her in the winner's circle. I mean, this is just an incredible filly, and to think that they got her for $35,000. I mean, forget the betting side. It's just awesome that this kind of a horse is doing what she's doing right now.
And you got that little bit of like the Monomoy girl feeling where you just have this horse that just keeps winning grade 1s and her season doesn't seem to end and she doesn't seem to get any worse. It just gets better and better and better. And that's one of those things that we talked about too. It's like, it is so impressive the string of races that she has run in and the level of competition that she's faced. Like, she hasn't won easy in a lot of these races. She just ran her eyeballs out against Art Collector and comes back in this and dominates and runs a career best buyer. It's like, I mean, at some point you got to think the horse is getting a little bit tired, but she just keeps showing up every step of the way. And that's the other part you have to obviously think about how you handle the end of a season for, because this is 5-6 straight grade races, including multiple top 100 buyer efforts. And she's just keeps chugging along. Like, it's very, very impressive and tough to do.
So let's take a look at the Kentucky Oaks. Obviously, there's Gamine, Bob Baffert. She wins the test. Looks amazing last weekend, or the weekend prior, I should say. Swiss Skydiver says, nope, no, shut up about Gamine. Don't forget about me. Hold my beer. I'm pretty damn awesome. Is it a 2-horse race? No love for speech? What are we thinking here? Yeah,
I think it's a 2-horse race, and I'm still on Gamine. I think Gamine is devastating for Swiss Skydiver, because I don't know if she showed a new dimension, but man, she would have to show a new dimension to beat Gamine. I mean, that to me is the thing. Is that Gamine is just, when that horse gets rolling, it's just, her stride is so easy. She's not moving at all. She's able to go. It's like Justify. When Justify was able to go 23:46, it looks like he's not even running. He's not using any energy. He's got so much left in the tank. That's what Gamine reminds me of. It's just this very easy stride. And when you have that easy stride with the horse up front, who is going faster than what Swiss Skydiver will have to run faster to stay close to Gamine, and then we'll have to have that same kick to pass Gamine. That's awfully scary to me. And if you look at the offshore books, man, even after yesterday, Gamine's still a sub 2-1 favorite. And Swiss Skydiver sitting at 3.5 to 4-1 in the offshores. So you're still seeing her double the price of Gamine for the Kentucky Oaks.
Wow. That's okay. Well, that's impressive. See, here's my one concern, and someone smarter than me. I wish Aaron was watching right now, because Aaron could chime in. My slight concern is actually the opposite of what my concern was before. I used to think Gamine doing a 7-furlong race into the Kentucky Oaks, I was like, well, why does he keep sprinting her? It's keeping her sharp. And I think we've seen that with her last 2 efforts. You got Swiss Skydiver coming out 1.25 miles, which she wasn't pressured. She didn't run all out. She just like Tizelaw, she had plenty left. But is there any concern about her being tired a little bit out of that? And when she needs that kick that you're talking about to try and pass Gamine, is she going to have it? Or is this latest 1.25 mile test going to pull it out a little bit, because now we're only going 1 1/8 miles? What do you think about that?
I mean, it was a concern of mine going into this race that if she was fully cranked for it, that she was going to end up getting tired by the end of this race, because she'd run such a tough campaign leading up to it. So, I like the idea that Gamine has been able to be pretty comfortable in her wins. She's been able to sit up front and being able to stay sharp and stay tight, but never have we seen Gamine have to go all out. Now, you could also make the argument we haven't really seen Swiss Skydiver go all out, except when she lost to Art Collector, and she rebounded from that just fine. So, I'm not gonna try and nitpick, and I've definitely been wrong enough about Swiss Skydiver in the past to try and nitpick her again here. I mean, for me, that Gamine just looks like an absolute monster. I think that's really the toughest part of this decision for him. I don't think she's probably the second choice. She's probably the second choice in the Oaks and the 3rd or 4th choice in the Derby right now. And so it's a tough, because you're not the favorite in either race, but you have a shot at winning both.
Kind of crazy how that happens. Kind of reminds me of, my camera's losing its mind again. We'll give it a quick break here for a second. We'll look at the third race here, Mike. That was a quick fix. That's an easy fix. I need to remember that next time it spazzes out on me. Race 10, this was the leg that knocked you out. If I was alive, if I'd been, not stupid in the first leg, hey, I'd still be alive after 3, which would just probably make me even angry about what happened in the last leg, but we'll get to that in a second. Race 3, number 5, New York's Finest is the winner. And I had said on the pod, look, I like this horse. He's got, all 9 wins have come going 5 or 5.5 furlongs on the turf sprinting. And you've got Irad Ortiz Jr. and Rudy Rod. And I was like, hey, look at the connections. Again, what the hell was I thinking earlier? I thought this was a great chance. My concern was, I was like, well, I don't know. He was my last horse on. I was like, he's got to be pressing the lead or on it if he has any chance of success. There's a lot of speed on paper. I just kind of threw him on at the last second. Where the hell was that other speed, Mike? Because it was New York's Finest, about 2 lengths, and the rest of the field. And that's just kind of how it ended up coming through. And so I got him at 6-1. It got me through, but not the way I thought it was going to happen. Not how you thought it was going to happen either, was it?
Yeah, and that's sometimes the frustrating part about these turf sprints, man. Like, how is there no speed? How is that? Like, how we get beat here? You got to think that you got to expect that there's going to be some speed just flying through or coming up at some point. And in this case, like, he just got loose. And when you get loose like that, it's really tough to pass horses, especially in this 5.5 furlong distance. And one of those things we always look for is speed in a turf sprint. And man, it was frustrating to not have any of it and to not just see the competition to it. And a lot of times, this is kind of funny if you watch these races, if there's 4 or 5 speed on paper, sometimes you just get the one lone leader. Because all the jockeys see that same speed. And man, they just only one sends. And in this case, it was Irad who's the aggressive one who sent, and everyone kind of sat off and just didn't put any pressure. And when you let a horse like New York's Finest go out there, who's, again, I don't think is the best horse in the world, but you got Irad running out there open on a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. It's awfully tough to get around the horse. So, I guess maybe I should have included more speed in my ticket, but I look back at this and I'm like, yeah, this horse is going to beat me most of the time. And sometimes you just kind of have to stick to your guns, and you can't, like, as weird as it sounds, is you're going to lose more than you're going to win. It's like in the MLB. If you bat in 300, you're in the Hall of Fame. If you hit 30% of your pick 4 tickets, you're a miracle worker. So, sometimes you're going to lose with horses that you're going to leave off. And this is one of those horses where I'm probably going to leave it off more than I'm going to put it on. The only way for me to get it on would have been the connection play, where it's saying, okay, it's Irad, it's Maker, it's, let's throw this horse on there and see what happens.
All right, let's talk about this last one. I'm going to make all of us mad. Listen, I would be legit mad on Saturday if I was alive at this point. So thank you, former Magic, for leaving off domestic spending. Yeah. Race 11 on the card. Whole bunch of maiden 40 state bred New York breds going a mile on the inner turf. And I made one call that morning before we recorded. One call. It was to Chad Summers. Actually, no, I texted him, and Chad called me back and spent a long time telling me about why this horse had no shot in hell of winning. And he brought up a lot of great arguments that if you and I were debating the show about using him, you probably would have brought up the same. And I thought it was just simple enough. Nope, not to do it. And then the 10 Freedom and Whiskey comes across the winner, and I hear it from Aaron, and I hear it from Jared, and I hear it from literally everybody who listens to this show. I was hearing about it this morning, and we're recording this on Monday. So thank you, Chad Summers. I appreciate that. What the hell? I don't know what to do with this race. I hate these level races, and whenever we cover New York races, I hate that this is how the legs always end, because I hate these races. I don't know. Well, I wouldn't have gotten to him without hitting the all button.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. And I'm going to start this with, and I've said this before, and I know that some people on our text chain take issue with this. Never trust a trainer. Doesn't matter. I don't care if they just never trust a trainer. Don't let it affect your opinion, because they are salesmen. They are oftentimes betting their own horses. We're going to talk about that in the will pays that are coming up here in a second. They often are a little disjointed with the real world, because they either think a horse is terrible and they're going to always think it's terrible and they're never going to say anything good about it, or they're going to be way overly optimistic and all they're going to say is good things. I've met trainers who every single horse is a grade 1 horse, and I'm looking around, I'm like, half your horses are in claimers. How the hell is this working out? It just is what it is, man. Trainers just don't have the ability to focus on the real, I don't know how to say this without sounding too insulting, but they're so focused on their world that it's sometimes tough to detach. And so they're not lying to you, but the truth is different to them, if that makes sense. So, the first thing I would say is that we learned is trainer information. It's a serious grain of salt thing for me. I'm rarely going to listen to an interview and change the way I'm going to play it, unless you hear an interview like, and I've heard this on TVG sometimes. So this is trainer speak I'll listen to. Is we really want the horse to go longer. Like Callahan about that the $1 million horse, $1 million 2-year-old that debuted in Del Mar on Sunday. He specifically said, "Yeah, we're going to send this horse 2 turns next time out." Right there, going 5.5. That horse isn't fully cranked. That horse wants more distance. Should not be the favorite, right? That's trainer speak that makes sense. A lot of the other stuff you kind of got to put a grain of salt in it and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do my own thing and trust my own opinion versus letting the trainer decide how I'm gonna play. Outside of that, yeah, this was an all-button horse, and I don't know how you get to this horse if you don't do it. I mean, it came from a terrible barn, went to Chad Summers, who's not a bad trainer, but he's not exactly lighting the world on fire right now. The jockey was 0 for 41 going into this race, like acted like he won the Kentucky Derby after he won it. I mean, it was just one of those races where, it's a 40,000 maidens. I could have made a case for it. I mean, it was dropping from maiden special weight down to maiden claiming. It shows speed against maiden special weights. This wasn't exactly a salty bunch of maidens here, so you could make some reasons. But yeah, to me, it's all button, or else there's no way to get into this horse.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. And Aaron, after soundly beating me into the ground on the live feed, Aaron said, "No, that all being said, I wouldn't have bet this horse with anyone with stolen money." So we're kind of saying the same thing. I'm sorry to anybody who was thinking about playing him, and they listened to our show last weekend, and I talked you off of it. But by the way, if you listened to our show and you were thinking about playing this horse before listening to us, you shouldn't have listened to us try and talk you off, because you're already crazy for thinking on paper that this horse has a fighting chance.
Well, I would also say never let anyone, including the two of us, talk you off a 20-1 shot, 34-1 shot. Let us talk you off a 2-1 shot. Don't let us talk you off a 34-1 shot, because the payout when that 34-1 shot hits is so significantly better than a 2-1 shot that I always say, you can tell me why my long shots are crazy, but I'm gonna still play them. And this was the only cap horse, the only $20+ winner that hit, or $40, 20-1 plus horse, $42 winner that hit the entire weekend at Del Mar or Saratoga. So this was the only cap horse in the tournament over the 2 days that hit, which is kind of crazy, because this one being it was just the salt in the wound. And there was like 15 people, 20 people out of 350 that had this horse. So I was pretty surprised that this was the horse you land on here. Although, when you're looking through the cards, this is a logical long shot race. So there is a reason why you're taking a stab in this race versus, even the one before it, where you're not expecting a 30-1 shot to get home. You can make an argument for a lot of 5 or 10-1 shots, but having a price horse, this is one of those legs that could definitely produce that.
Yeah, and then I've learned that before sometimes with these later legs. I've learned the hard way a lot of times with these later legs, especially when it's state bred and maiden claiming, and it's just a mess on paper. Sometimes you got to take a shot and find a little tiny thing that maybe you like the fact that Chad Summers low percentage, but maiden claiming he's 13% with a nice ROI. So maybe you play that angle off the drop or something.
Well, but drive into the tracks, we could cash the ticket to pick up his stacks in person.
Jeez. I still love Chad. Chad's one of my favorite people in horse racing that I've met. It just made me laugh. But tell you what, you want to talk about a laugher? We'll move on to Woodbine, race 10 on Saturday. This was the $500,000 Woodbine Oaks. If you're unfamiliar with how the Woodbine and Canadian racing schedule goes, Woodbine has their own version, or I should say Woodbine Fort Erie have their own version of the Triple Crown, where it's the $1 million Queen's Plate, which is the most prestigious race that they have all year for 3-year-olds. It's restricted to horses that are foaled in Canada. They go to they do that in the synthetic at Woodbine, then they go to Fort Erie on the dirt, then they come back and finish on the Woodbine turf. So it's a very unique Triple Crown. And a lot of times you have some strong fillies that show up in that Queen's Plate trial, and it's usually the winner of the Woodbine Oaks. And so that's why, to me, this is a big key race, especially because just earlier in the card, we had the plate trial, which is supposed to be the major prep race for the Queen's Plate. And the horse that I thought was going to be, a clear runaway winner barely got the job done. He looked like total shit doing it. And then you had Curlin's Voyage in the Woodbine Oaks. And I texted Aaron and said, I think this is your Queen's Plate winner, the way that she ran. The reason I want to talk about it is because Patrick Husband's aboard. And by the way, I'm going to stop for a second and say, I'm going to try sharing my screen. And if it crashes again, we know that that's a problem with StreamYard trying to share. So we'll see if this works, but I think
there we go.
I'm still going. Hey. All right. So it's literally just whenever I try to show a winning ticket from the Selma Bombs. So I'm going to start it here, and I did a little video editing. You see right here, I've got it paused.
Look at
the arrow's
you, man.
pointing. I know. I had a lot of fun this morning. Right there, the green silks with the black cap, the one horse. This is Curlin's Voyage. Look at where she's at, and then there's one horse behind her. That's the 7, Mervaloo. We're going to guess how we say it. Mervaloo was Aaron's pick, and it was Patrick Husbands, in his opinion, the horse he had to beat. And right here at this moment, they're just halfway down the backstretch. Patrick Husbands wins the race here because he decided, I need to get away from the 7 horse and make sure that she can't get the jump. And watch him start to weave through. And now he splits horses. He checks back. 7's still there. All right, going to keep weaving. Now I'm going to come down to the rail a little bit, save ground, let her kind of corner a little bit. And then when she decides that she's going to go, she takes off. But Patrick Husband's just continuing to weave her along the rail and around horses. I mean, look at this. Look at where she's at right now. She's still on the rail. All these horses are starting to back up. That 7, by the way, is several lengths behind her, trying to catch up to her.
Just following the path.
Oh, shoot. And then I crashed the screen share. Trying to follow it. And then Patrick Husbands is going to end up getting her to roll right at the top. And it's just, when we were watching this live, I was like, right here, I knew that she had it won because she shot up the rail so quickly, so efficiently with a pilot that knew what to do. She's going to straighten for home, and he's never going to get after her. The Mervaloo, the 7, ends up making a very late run, but she had plenty of traffic. Look where she's at right there. She's 3 wide, having a split between horses. She's going to dive inside here, trying to get around this 5 horse who's starting to fade a little bit. I mean, to me, this is the Queen's Plate winner if Patrick Husbands has this kind of a ride again, because the ride is what won this, and goddamn, Patrick Husbands is good at this stuff.
Yeah, and you watch this back, and this is interesting because I'm not a huge trip notes guy, but you watch this back, and I want the 7 next time. As weird as that sounds, the 1 saved, 4 lengths of ground versus the 7 just in this replay that we watched. So that makes up the distance right there. And the 1 is slowing down. The 7's picking up. The 1's veering out, so clearly tired. The 7's running home better. So this is one of those where you watch this and look, Patrick Husband's amazing ride. If we still did the crafty ride of the week, you actually won it on the live show. We gave it out on the live show, so we can't give it out twice. But man, the way that the 7 is able to follow the 1 through and then run into the traffic because the 10 backs up into the 7 if you're watching this again, and then the 7 has to go out and split rivals. I almost like the 7 more coming out of this race than I do the 1 because without that traffic trouble, the 7 is going to make this a lot closer. Next time back, I'm getting a lot better price on the 7 than I will be on the 1 because they lost head-to-head. Also in this race, a Fleet Catherine, Sid, what's his name?
Sid Adder. Yep.
Sid Adder. Yeah, he had both the 7 and the 5 out of this. The 5 was a morning line 15-1, was down to 5-2 at one point, ended up going off at 4-1. It's another one that we mentioned on the live stream. I got to say, I was pretty proud of us on the live stream, man. We nailed this race. And out of those 3 horses, I think the 7 is the one that you want to bet back. I know that was Aaron's pick in this race. I think he might have been 1 too early. I think you might get a price next time too. But yeah, the key here is Patrick Husbands just owning some people here with this ride. Absolutely dominant in the way he was able to split traffic and then cut to the inside and get the job done.
Yeah, with the 7, from having watched some of her races, when it comes to a mile and a quarter, I don't know if she's going to have that same quite of a closing kick that they have in the Queen's Plate. But that's a good point that you make out of there. I want to say, for as shitty as I did with my Saratoga ticket structure, we did a live show where we covered 3 Woodbine races. I had the winner in all 3 of them. So at least if you were watching then, I had at least had Woodbine right. We just need to do this at Woodbine more often. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I mean, well, you've been the Woodbine guy for a while, which is odd because you're in Los Angeles, California, but your love for Woodbine just does not die. It burns bright, man.
All right. So, Mike, there was one last topic that you wanted to cover on the show, and that is about will pay handicapping and betting. So take it away.
Yeah, I just wanted to call this out because, I was not on JC's Shooting Star at all going into the day. I didn't like that horse at all. David Donk had himself a day at Saratoga on Sunday. He was able to get 3 winners home, all at prices. Started out with a 17-1 shot, then won with Winning Factor. I think it was race 6. And then race 7 had JC's Shooting Star, who's a 3 horse, who's a older horse at Saratoga, run on the turf or on the dirt, been able to come back and run well as a closer. The Saratoga dirt right now is setting up well for these horses. They're able to close off the pace, especially when it's a little bit hotter, going 6.5 furlongs. But the thing that I noticed that was really, really interesting is that JC's Shooting Star was the second choice in the doubles and went off at 10-1. And was the 9th choice or 7th choice, one of the 2. I was trying to pull up the will pays, but I couldn't find them today. In the pick 3.
I don't think they exist afterwards. I think that's what we found out is when the race is done, they disappear.
Yet another thing that horse racing needs to work on. Anyway, JC Shooting Star ends up winning this race at 10-1, and the double pays $60, which when you think about it is ridiculously an underlay. Right. OK, because Winning Factor was 6-1, and then JC Shooting Star was 10-1. There's no way in hell that double should pay anything less than $150. Someone hammered the bejesus out of it. I'm guessing it's the connections because, and sometimes you can see this in the will pays when there's that big So I noticed this during the tournament, and I almost picked JC Shooting Star just for the reason that the horse was hammered that hard in the daily double. So I almost completely moved off my choice, which is the 7, who ended up running third here. My Roxy Girl was fourth, but the 8 got DQ'd, and switching to the 3 because of the double and the price in the win pool. Often my grandfather used to tell me, look for smart people betting and follow them betting. When the daily doubles hammered that hard, someone knew something about winning factor, first off. And secondly, if it's the same rider, same trainer, you got to believe that someone knew something about JC's Shooting Star. Someone's not dropping. And this is a big double that was bet. It was probably a single double that was in the $400 to $500 range, maybe more, that crunched the will pays down that hard. If that's the case, you got to watch that money. And if it was smart the first leg, why wouldn't it be smart the second leg? So it's one of those reasons why you got to look at the daily doubles for both, or the will pays for the daily doubles, the pick 3s, the pick 4s, the pick 5s. And when you find large inconsistencies, look at the reason why. And in this case, David Donkin Ortiz on both of those horses was a very clear indicator of reason why that double was less than the pick 3, and a reason why you could have gotten onto JC Shooting Star. And I almost did. I was kicking myself, because if I had used this horse, I would have been $30 higher in the tournament and competing in the top 5. But it's a way that you can move over from one horse to another if you're looking or paying attention from those race to race will pays. And you could have known and gotten on a 10-1 shot by simply looking at what the doubles pay versus what the pick 3 pays here.
I've learned from what you're talking about for single race wagering, when you see something like that, especially if you see a horse's odds plummet. So we were talking about last race, the Woodbine Oaks with the Fleet Catherine, where she was 15-1 morning line and she was hammered down. It was 5-2 at one point.
Yep.
And if you look at the will pays, it kind of reflects more of the will pays of she's going to be closer to 4-1, 5-1 than the 15-1. So I've learned when you see a horse jump like that, when the tote first flashes the odds, look to see what the will pays are, because if a horse is favored suddenly that took a lot of early money that you weren't expecting to, look at the will pays. If the will pays don't match it, that horse is probably going to float back up to their odds, or vice versa. But if you see that it's down, somebody knows something, and maybe you want to get in a little. You might not have liked that horse before. You might be already locked into a pick 3, pick 4, pick 5, and you're kind of screwed. Throw something down just to win on your own, because if that horse wins, you lost your other ticket, but you came back and got it, and it's better than nothing.
Well, and to me too, I mean, I like to look at, when I'm playing the first leg of a pick 5 or pick 4, I'll always look at the doubles and see what's the probables for the doubles. Is there a horse getting hammered in the second leg that I'm not using at all? Because that can often give you an edge on okay, wait, why is this horse taking money? Maybe I can get on the and I'm not going to call it a wise guy horse, because it's not a wise guy horse. In this case, it's a horse that the word's out on, right? Where it's going to run significantly better than its odds and when you string those together in pick 3s and pick 4s, that's where they're going to get bet the least. They're going to get bet in daily doubles. They're going to get bet in the win pool. Pick 3s and pick 4s, you're putting more variance into that information. You're essentially having to pick 2 winners or 3 winners around that hot horse or the known horse. So by creating that more variance, you're going to have less people playing it. That's why the daily double will give it away, but a pick 3 may not. And that's why looking at these will pays, looking at the probables, all of it's very important information that you're being given. It's how you decide to process that information and then execute off that information that you're processing.
All right, that's going to end it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to talk about the what we got right and wrong at Saratoga, and how well Woodbine went. And hopefully you learned something there at the end about Mike with will pay handicapping and betting. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kellord. He's at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords, as always, at Racing_Dudes. Like I talked about earlier this show, we have the inside track to the Pacific Classic Wagering Guide coming out this week. I would expect it to be in your hands, available for sale on Wednesday. It's available for pre-sale right now at racingnews.com. Click on the handicapping products page. The SummerBombs finally hit another big one, and when Mike gets one, there's usually a bunch to follow. It's like a David Donk daily double. If one happens, you can probably bet the next one's going to happen too. So make sure you're checking those out. But I'm assuming you're probably going to stay at Saratoga, right, for this coming weekend?
I mean, I got to be at Del Mar on Saturday, right? And I think I might do both Del Mar and Saratoga Saturday. I'm still debating on what to do there. So it's funny. Like I felt like I need to step my game up. So I was in New York last week playing in this golf tournament, right? And I was using printed out PPs. And I still have this thing about printed out PPs. For some reason, I think I'm better than when I'm looking at a computer. I went and I bought a laser printer and printed out this weekend's PPs, and bam, the Sama bombs hit. You can get through so many more races. I stay so much more focused because I'm not clicking around on all the internet background crap that's there. So I've got my laser printer over here. I'm ready to print some Del Mar, some Saratoga PPs, get to handicapping. So pretty excited about that, man. It's stupid as it sounds. Pen and paper is the best way to do this for me still, because you can circle and go back and look at and flip from page to page instead of all this scrolling and staring at the screen. So I'm excited to have my pen and paper back. I think it's going to make us even hotter than it was before. I think the results this weekend spoke for itself. So let's just keep it rolling, baby.
I love it. We're just going to blame it on you not having the printer right there next to you. I have kind of a hybrid of what you are, because I understand what you're saying. I loved having the paper printout. I hated having stacks of paper that I was going through all the time. I was doing it at my old job, so I didn't really care. It wasn't a cost thing. I just felt bad that I was wasting all this paper. So that's why I got this computer. Is actually it'll turn into a notepad. I got a little stylus but I'll do exactly what you're talking about. The markups are all over the place. Like I've got, a bunch of highlighters and pens. So I feel you on that. It feels a lot better, and it's a lot easier to focus when you're sitting there marking, even if it's a digital pen instead of a real one.
Oh yeah, and then I can, for me, I've got a nice little lounge chair back here, so I can go with a clipboard and go race by race through it. And I'm not sitting in front of a screen. I'm not distracted in any way. You can really focus on what you're doing. You're able, for me, I take longer handicapping when I'm in front of a computer too than when I'm sitting with paper behind me. So I like the time aspect. It's a huge savings there too, and the focus definitely makes a difference. So all that is my long-winded way of saying, figure out what makes you the best handicapper, and then provide yourself the outlet to be able to make that happen. Because I do think it makes a difference for each person how they handicap. And I think that if you look at back when you've had success, I bet there's a common theme and thread of what you were doing to be able to get to that success. And sometimes it's just go old school and get yourself a pen and a piece of paper. And I am printing double-sided, so don't worry. I am trying to save the environment as I slowly.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The ink doesn't bleed through or anything? That'd be my thing, is I just see all the marks. I'm a hard writer, so I make indentations whenever I'm writing. So
I've been good so far. I had Friday's card on one side and then Saturday's card on the back, because I single printed one side of Friday's card and then put the paper back and single printed Saturday's card. So I could still flip like this and still have the single pages. But for me, it's just having that paper. It actually just makes a difference.
Well, yeah, who knew? Once again, thank you everybody who was following along with us. We like to do this every Wow, let me try that again. We like to do this every Monday and Thursday at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. I'm going to keep that one in, but a lot of times when Magic makes a flub, he adds it out for the podcast version. So if you watch the video either live or you catch the replay, it's always available on YouTube as well. We get a little more fun, and sometimes we have to stick around and talk about some other stuff as well. But that is going to end it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. We'll be back on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you guys next time. And somebody just came in with a question. Sorry, we'll get you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.